93, 93, 93. This is the Mon Renew from AshaRenew.com. In this particular segment, we will be speaking about Hitler's watch sales for large sum. The Nazis' leader's historic timepiece brought a winning bid of 1.1 million in a U.S. auction that was condemned by Jewish groups. Now let's get a little more context here. A trove of Nazi artifacts offered by a U.S. auctioneer in defiance of Jewish groups that called for the sale to be canceled generated millions of dollars in winning bids, including 1.1 million for Adolf Hitler's swastika engraved watch, which we see here. So what's going on here is, of course, Hitler somehow always ends up in the media just like Trump, just like Elon Musk. This is a name that isn't going anywhere no time soon, especially because of the Ukrainian conflict, as Vladimir Putin calls the denazification of Ukraine. So all this did is give more energy to that energy. Because I guarantee if the Ukrainian conflict was not going on, they definitely would not have made this much money. But because of what's going on in Ukraine and because that neo-Nazi energy has become mainstream now this is why money can be made for these artifacts. And of course, there was many other artifacts as well, as we see. Let's see. There was a gold ring that was sold for $27K. It was a Hitler ceremonial desk set, which was sold for $290K. And I don't think they mentioned every single thing here. But what we're getting at here is the auction went ahead despite opposition from Jewish leaders, 34 of whom reportedly signed an open letter urging Alexander Historical Auctions not to sell the Hitler watch, which they call abhorrent. However, Mindy Greenstein, senior vice president at the auction house, reportedly told German media outlets that the sale was meant to preserve history. If you destroy history, there is no proof that it happened, she said. Whether good or bad history, it must be preserved. So what they're saying is the reason why this auction happened in the first place is to preserve history. It wasn't really about making money because they actually made more than they expected. Most of these items that they sold made more than they expected. Well, here is more. Some of the other items featured in the sale included a watercolor painting by Hitler, because of course, for those who don't know, Hitler was also a painter, and that sold for $27.5K. And a concentration camp photo album, which went for $3K, and a blue dress worn by Hitler's companion, Eva, which attracted a winning bid of $2,500. It says the watch sold far below the pre-auction estimate, which was between 2 to 4 million. However, some items commanded far higher prices than expected. For instance, a golden eagle figure that hung above the entrance to Hitler's bedroom sold for 200,000. A dog collar that was emblazoned with gold swastikas went for 4,500. And also we see the sale also featured non-Nazi items. So again, this really, this is what happens all the time. Auctions happen all the time. But whenever Hitler is mentioned, as we say here, because here it is. I'm just going to read the direct quote. It says, it was utterly disgusting. Critics were unconvinced. They called it utterly disgusting. She added, let's be clear, selling Nazi paraphernalia glorifies genocidal murder. So that's how the Jewish people feel. Like, okay, so you're selling these artifacts. You're basically glorifying what happened in the Holocaust. So that's how the Jewish people feel, and that's why they wanted it to be canceled. They didn't want nobody to make any money off of anything Nazi. Because in the U.S., we're supposed to be partners with, the Israeli people, the people in Israel. The Jewish people, right? That's why we're all in Ukraine right now, because we're supposed to be pro-Jewish. So we're supposed to be pro-Jewish. They're basically saying, like, why are you selling Nazi paraphernalia if you're so pro-Jewish? And again, our answer was, we're preserving history. Now, whether or not you want to believe that is, completely up to personal taste. But the reason why this energy is coming back to the world once again, the Neptune retrograde and the Jupiter retrograde is bringing up a lot of karmic energy. There's a lot of karmic energy. So things that have happened long, long ago is ruffling feathers once again. And this is due to karma. Karma every now and then has to reemerge and remind us about what happened in the past. And everybody's not going to be happy about that. And nor should they be happy about it, because it's karmic. So the last thing the Jewish people wanted is anybody making money off of a swastika, right? Especially with his initials in the watch. This is the last thing that they want to see, especially when you see this golden eagles. Like, they don't want none of, they would be happy if all this was burnt, right? So that's the whole thing. Like, if they had their way, they would say just burn it, just get rid of it. They don't want it to exist at all. But from our perspective, we're like, okay, we're going to preserve it. We're not trying to destroy it as if it didn't happen. We want to preserve it. So we're going to sell it to the people that will preserve it. So basically what this does, this gives you insight into how both parties think. So again, the Jewish people would care less if all this stuff got burnt and we never knew it existed at all. They would be just fine with that. But in the U.S., we're all about business. It's like, okay, well, why burn something when you can make millions? Because you see, millions of dollars were made. Millions of dollars were made off of this. So like, why just burn all this because we don't agree with what happened? And this doesn't mean that we comply with what happened. This doesn't mean that we agree with what happened. But why couldn't we make money off of it? And again, so of course that's going to ruffle the feathers of the Jewish people, and which I completely understand. The last thing a Jewish person wants to see is a swastika. Then when you see money being made because these items are valuable, you see it's a gold watch, so it's valuable. But again, it brings up a lot of karmic energy, and we're going to be dealing with a lot of karmic energy because Jupiter is in retrograde, and it will be in retrograde all the way till November 24th once again. So expect more things like this to occur in terms of things that happened in the past that now gets reemerged, and it ruffles the feathers, and people are going to be feeling some type of way about things that happened long, long ago. So definitely don't expect this to slow down anytime soon. Expect to see more of these things, and I got a couple more stories to cover anyway. So we'll leave it at that. I'll get at you soon. 93, 93, 93.